Good evening, everyone, and a very warm welcome, quite literally because it's boiling in here. My name is Lexi, and I'm the Union Affairs Officer at the Students' Union, and also a member of the University's Board of Governors.
And I'm Wise De Silva, a member of the University's Future Leaders Graduate Programme.
Tonight marks the beginning of a new chapter in Manchester's story. For 2 centuries, this university has been a place where ideas meet action, where breakthroughs happen, and where people come together to make a difference.
Tonight is about imagining and shaping the Manchester 2035. The future is full of possibilities, and together we're setting up a strategy to ensure we don't just adapt to the world around us, but help to shape it.
The energy, the ambition, and the creativity that our community has put forward is what you'll see this evening. Over the year-long engagement process, we've heard what kind of uni we want and need to be. This strategy doesn't directly address the car parking issues, it does quite a bit more than that. This is From Manchester for the World. Our President and Vice-Chancellor, Professor Duncan Iverson.
So, good evening. It was very tempting to do the Theresa May robot dance, but I resisted. The song's too good for it either. And I should shout out, if you haven't been Shazamming it, that's by Young, who are a terrific local Manchester band, so look it up on Spotify as we go. So, look, wonderful to have you all here, friends and supporters. As Lexi said, my name's Duncan Iverson. I'm the President and Vice-Chancellor here at the University of Manchester, and I was on this stage almost 1 year ago exactly on this date. And what I tried to do that night was make an argument for why the university needed to develop a new strategy, why we needed to think about our future in a new way. And here we are, a year later, with something of an answer, the beginning, I should say, of an answer. The question I asked that night was not only what kind of university do we want to be, but what kind of university do we need to be? I think that's the more interesting question. You know, desire is one thing, but looking at the world in the sort of practical, objective way we need to, I think, is even harder. It's more disciplined. So what kind of university do we need to be by 2035? And my argument was we probably needed to be more innovative, more engaged, more committed to excellence, among other things, than ever before. And that's what we've been grappling with over the last 11 to 12 months. And tonight we're presenting to you what we think we need to be by 2035. So we did it over the last period by talking to each other, and not only to each other, but talking to many of you in the room. And we're grateful for the engagement that we've had from so many people, not just in the city region, and you'll hear from some of them tonight, but not only across the UK, but across the world, including our 500,000 alumni who just about represent every country in the world. But we spent the year with 12,000 of our colleagues and partners talking to us about what they thought we needed to be. We had 2,000 engagements in our Ideas Lab, the next version of which you can see downstairs, and which will tour the campus for the next couple of months, both in person and digital. We had over 6,000 ideas submitted, everything from the Vice-Chancellor should resign to some of the exciting... People in Manchester are tough, actually, I have to say. From that to some of the ideas that you've seen tonight. Some of you in the room, I think, hopefully, will see an idea or the sparkle of an idea that started in a workshop end up on the screen behind me. So it's been a collective effort. It's been a community effort, and that's exactly what we wanted it to be. But let's begin with our North Star. As I said, I argued a year ago that we, given what was happening in the world, given what's happening in our country, given what's happening in our city, we needed to be more innovative, more engaged, more committed to excellence than ever before. So we really had to think about what's our North Star. And one way of doing that, as I said, you can be, as the famous German historian said, a historian is a prophet looking backwards. Well, you can look to your past to think about your future. And of course, we have done that. This was the first modern civic university, but more importantly, more powerfully, it was a university that began as an answer to a question, which is what kind of new knowledge, what kind of new citizens do we need for a world being transformed by the Industrial Revolution? And our question today for our strategy is what kind of new knowledge do we need today? What kind of new citizens do we have to help support and develop to deal with the social and political and cultural revolutions happening around us today? And moreover, we were the first modern civic university, so what does it mean to be a civic university in the 21st century? So our first claim is that we want to be one of the great civic universities of the 21st century. That, I think, is Manchester's true North Star. We want to be the university that's creating and disseminating knowledge for the public good, both locally and globally, here in Manchester, but also for the world. Cities bring people together in creative, collaborative, and often in difficult ways. They're laboratories of tolerance. They're engine rooms for growth. They connect people in creative and dynamic ways. And we think that being a great civic university of the 21st century is going to be an institution committed to doing that for the future. So as part of the strategy, I won't go through every single aspect of it tonight, but I'll give you a sense of it. There's some core things that we're going to be articulating. There's going to be some core things that are going to be the heart of our strategy. Collaboration and partnership is probably the most important of all. We need to turn outwards in everything we do. The great 21st century universities are going to be porous. They're going to be collaborators, not only because we gain from collaboration, but because we can help through collaboration as well. So collaboration and partnership is at the heart of our strategy. Equity and inclusion is going to be at the heart of our strategy over the next 10 years. The best universities are inclusive universities. You do better research. You do better teaching. You get better partners. Your students have better experience. Your staff has a better experience. And at a time in a world where we're hearing people turning away from inclusion, turning away from the power of a diverse and inclusive community, we are going to lean into it. It's a critical part of our future. I've already mentioned at the heart of our strategy is also this commitment to the relationship between the local and the global. In some ways, the great 21st century universities have credibility because they have credibility in the communities they serve. But they take what they learn in those communities and take it outwards, take it out into the world and bring back what they learn to their local communities. So we want to see the teaching and research we're doing here in our city region, in partnership with our city leadership and with the private and public sector here in our city region. We want to take that not only and spread it and engage around the UK, but in the world as well. And to take the best of what's happening in the world and bring it to Manchester, the best students, the best staff, the best partners who want to come and invest and work with us. Innovation and entrepreneurship is going to be at the heart of our strategy, as you'll see. The only way that countries' economies will continue to grow and diversify and become more dynamic in the way they have to is if that great triple helix ideal is truly realized. So how do we put innovation and entrepreneurship at the heart of our university? Entrepreneurship for all is a slogan, is a ambition that you'll hear a lot over the coming weeks and months. We're also going to be thinking about the student experience. We'll put students at the heart of everything we do. Great universities put students at the heart of everything they do, whether that's in relation to the curriculums we develop, the teaching ambitions we have, but also in relationship to the research we do. Students have to be at the heart of everything we do. The other thing that's going to be crucial for our strategy is the relationship between discovery and impact. We will remain committed to the absolute importance of discovery, what I like to call sort of wonder-based research. Just asking the question because it's a hard question, or the problem is beautiful in and of itself. That is something that only universities can do. Increasingly, depressingly, it's often the only place where that kind of work is done. But as you'll see in the strategy, what we're committed to is accelerating the point between the things we do when we discover extraordinary things and seeing its impact in the world around us. Great 21st century universities are going to be ones who can accelerate the teaching and research that we do out into the broader community. Of course, academic freedom will remain at the heart of our strategy as well. Academic freedom and freedom of speech are the necessary conditions for great research and teaching to occur. And again, at a time when that is under incredible pressure for all kinds of reasons, it has to be part of our North Star. That's what students and researchers, that's what our partners expect. It's a necessary condition of being a truth-seeking organization. Why is freedom of speech so important? Why is academic freedom so important? Because that's the way you get at the truth of the matter. That's the way you get at the heart of things, even if it remains elusive in all kinds of ways. And then finally, in some ways within which the whole North Star sits is our civic mission. You know, as I said, born as an institution to help us create the knowledge that we felt we needed when the Industrial Revolution was sort of pulsating around us. How do we think about our mission now at a time when technology is transforming our world, when geopolitics is transforming our global environment, when states and countries are experiencing incredible shocks? What's our role as a great civic university in a world being transformed in those ways? We want to be one of the great 21st century civic universities. Okay, so that's the initial pitch. Let me now dive down into a few more examples of what we want to do over the next 10 years. And one thing to say before I do, though, is to give you a sense of, and this has come through the community, this has come through our discussions over the last months. One thing to say is, and it might be a funny thing to say at this stage, we don't have all the answers. You know, a strategy is not about knowing all the answers. It's not about predicting the future. You know, prediction, despite what economists and betting agencies say, is a bit of a mug's game. It's about preparing yourself for it. It's about being resilient and being in a place to potentially shape what's coming at you. And as I said, the things we need to deal with are really significant. And I would challenge anyone to know what the ultimate answers are going to be in the end. There's changes occurring to how we teach and how we work, both in the university and more broadly in society. There's extraordinary geopolitical uncertainty and challenge that is playing out in sometimes tragic ways on our streets and on our campuses, and that will continue for the foreseeable future. There's also shifts happening in higher education more generally. I mean, technology is transforming higher education, but so are demographics. So, alas, is government policy. There are many things that are transforming higher education as we know it that we need to be prepared for. And finally, there are deep economic, technological, and social changes occurring. You know, we're in the midst of, I think, one of the most extraordinary natural experiments for some time. We are basically releasing, almost uncontrolled, potentially, one of the most powerful technologies, artificial intelligence, that we've created without much sense of where it's all going to land. So that's the environment in which we have to create our strategy. That's the environment in which we have to set our ambitions. And our ambition is to be one of the great universities that can help shape some of these phenomena as much as respond or react to them. So, here's the way we're thinking about it. There's two critical conceptual aspects of our strategy, what we're calling our foundations and then our leaps. And our foundations are the things that we have to get right, whatever else we do, whatever else happens in our world, whatever else happens in our organization, we have to get these things right, what some call the brilliant basics. And this came through really strongly in our consultations and discussions with our community. People said, you know, fix the foundations. All this other stuff is really cool, very exciting. Just make sure you fix the foundations. That's important to us. And the foundations, of course, will provide the basis upon which we can then do the things that will transform the experience of our students and our staff as well. So there's 5 foundations, and don't worry, I'm not going to give you a long talk on each one, but just to give you a sense, there's 5 foundations. The first, of course, and I've already talked about it, is outstanding teaching and research. That's, in a sense, that's the table stakes for us. That's why people come to us. That's what people look to the University of Manchester for. A globally excellent elite institution doing cutting-edge research and first-class teaching. That has to remain a standard to which we hold ourselves, and we will. We are going to be values-led and socially responsible, a distinctive feature of the identity of the institution that so many people have told me is important to them, and indeed is one reason why I'm here. It's one reason why I've come back to the UK and been able to do this take on this extraordinary role. And when you think about, the core values of the organization, if you think about the things that really motivate the organization, wisdom, knowledge, humanity. Has there been a time in which each of those values has been under more pressure? The concept of knowledge itself is under constant attack, in part from that technological revolution I meant. The concept of wisdom is increasingly being disordered in a world of social media, short attention spans, and a breaking down of social fabric. And the idea, of humanity, alas, we're living in seemingly relentlessly inhumane times. We're experiencing new forms of inhumanity, seemingly week in, week out, even day in, day out. So those values have to be at the core of everything we do. It's the way we come at the world. It's the way we work with each other and the way we will work with our partners. The third foundation is of Manchester and for the world. You're going to hear this expression all afternoon. Embrace it, tweet it, whatever, LinkedIn it. You choose your favorite poison. Of Manchester and for the world. We want to take what we're doing in Manchester, take what's distinctive about the way we do things in Manchester, but always turn outwards, always take it out into the world. Not to pontificate, but to share and to learn from others as they engage with us. So, of Manchester and for the world. And fourthly, organized for success. This is probably the most consistent, I think, feedback we got throughout our consultation process. We need to work in a more integrated way, as one university, not 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 universities. There's a famous, rather cynical summary of what a university is that was offered by a famous American president who said, a university is 8 faculties held together by arguments over parking. That cannot be us, right? That's not what we mean by one university. So we want to organize ourselves in a way that ensures we're integrating our activities, partly because we just can't afford not to, but secondly, that's what we'll need to do if we're going to deliver the research and teaching and partnership that we want to deliver for the future. And finally, a place where you belong. We want everyone who joins us, whether that's a student, whether that's someone joining our professional teams, whether that's a researcher, whether that's a partner, whether that's our alumni, we want whoever is part of our community to feel that they belong, to feel that they matter. Now, that doesn't mean we always agree. In fact, it would be worrying if there was a university in which everyone agreed. We are a very dialogic culture, universities. We enjoy argument and debate, but we want to be a place where people feel that they matter, that they belong, that we engage with each other with empathy, understanding, that we're oriented to get to the truth of the matter, and that's what we're here to do. So those are our foundations, the things we're going to do, whatever else we do, the things we remain committed to, whatever else might happen, the things that, in a sense, we're laying our hands together and saying, we are going to do this, come what may. But of course, the world doesn't stop. You build foundations, and then you've got to think about what's going to go on top of those foundations, how you're going to continue to adapt, and not only adapt and react, but shape the world that's occurring all around you. And these are what we're calling our leaps. These are the transformational things that we feel we need to do in order to become one of the great 21st century civic universities. And by that I mean for people to look at Manchester as the embodiment of what it means to be a great 21st century university. And in an amazing act of symmetry, there are 5 leaps as well. The first, flexible, personalized, and digitally enabled learning. We want to give our students and future students a much richer, personalized, digital-first learning experience. We also want to give them a chance to put their learning into practice in various ways. And one of the big ideas, one of our big dreams here, which we're putting out there, and think about it for a moment before I say it, we have 47,000 students. We want every one of our students in the future to have a chance to put their learning into practice as part of their degree, for credit, embedded in their program. Whether that's an internship, whether that's a placement, a project, an exchange, some way of engaging with the community, we want that to be part of what it means to be a student in Manchester in the future. We're also going to build our digital campus. We've started that, but there's more that we want to do. And one reason for doing that is not because we don't believe in the on-campus embodied form of learning that has been at the heart of universities for 1,000 years, but because we think this is the best way we're going to open up the benefits of a University of Manchester education to more people than ever before. People who are working, people who are going through life with different challenges and different pressures, people who've never been part of the higher education system, but we know will need to engage with us and other parts of the tertiary system over the next decade. Something like 90% of all of the new jobs, good-paying jobs, will require some form of tertiary education, some form of, indeed, higher education. How do we do that in a way that meets people where they are, rather than expecting them to meet us exclusively? So flexible, personalized, and digitally enabled learning. I've already mentioned a big ambition for our research. We want to find ways to create deep connections between the research excellence that we have and are focused on at the university and the impact it can have in our community. So we're going to supercharge our commitment to interdisciplinary research. We're starting with 4 what we call research platforms, and we're going to build on those. These are, in a way, to borrow a rather sort of trendy term from computer science, we want to mobilize the full stack of the university around some of the big challenges our world faces in environment, in digital, in health, in the creative sphere. How do we mobilize the full stack of the university around these big challenges and questions? It doesn't mean we don't still need poets to be thinking about the nature of, the second stanza of Byron in 1864, but we also want those poets to be talking potentially to physicists, and those physicists to be talking to those historians, and those historians to be talking to lawyers, because we feel that's the way we're going to come at some of the deep challenges our culture and our world faces. So research excellence to impact, to be the university where we're harnessing our excellence in new and creative ways. The third leap of our 5 leaps is, again, something I've already gestured towards, which is to become a powerhouse of innovation. How does the University of Manchester engage with the real economy in new and powerful ways over the next decade? You know, depending on how you measure it, something like close to half of our students want to start their own companies when they graduate. That is sort of extraordinary if you just pause and reflect on that for a moment. Almost half of our students want to start their own companies when they graduate. We want more of our staff to think about how their research can be, you know, in a sense, accelerated into the community through commercialization, and indeed also through companies. We want to work more closely with our industry and social enterprise partners. I think this is going to be crucial, not only to the social license of universities for the future, but it's going to be crucial for the economic success and flourishing of Greater Manchester. And not just Greater Manchester, but for the UK and beyond as well. There's so much of this to build on already in Manchester. We have fantastic innovation assets that we can mobilize. This is going to be at the heart of our next strategy as well. And fourth, our 4th leap, the university to partner with. Partners have choices just as much as students and staff and others. And we want to be an institution that the best partners want to work with. And obviously some of that is just making sure we're easier to work with. You know, universities sometimes have a reputation as being, you know, they lack a front door, et cetera, et cetera. But it's also about how we orient ourselves around the kinds of challenges that our partners have and that are bringing us, and that we're bringing them. So we want to be the institution that partners are actively seeking out to work with. We want to connect them with our students. We want to connect them with the curriculums and what we're doing in the classroom. We want to connect our research with the ambitions and challenges that our partners are facing, whether that's the Manchester City Council, or whether that's BUPA, whether that's the Manchester City Football Club, whether that's Amnesty International or the UN. We want to be the university to partner with. And then finally, digital inside and out. Of course, we need ourselves as an institution to be thinking about how we deploy technology, the transformative technology that we're all grappling with in our lives in so many ways. But we also need to be an exemplar of the way it can be done. We're a big institution, 48,000 students, 13,000 staff, 500,000 alumni. Technology has to be part of the way we improve the experience of our staff and students, but we need to do it in the right way at a time when so many are not. So how do we not only deploy technology to improve our staff and student experience, our partner experience, the outcomes we want, but to do it in a way that's responsible, to do it in a way that's an exemplar for how technology should be oriented and arranged for the public good. So 5 leaps and 5 foundations form the core of our next strategy. That's what's going to drive our work over the next decade. Now, we've already got started. You know, things are already underway. We are already thinking differently about innovation in setting up Unit M, our new innovation unit that's trying to kind of mobilize and harness our innovation assets in all sorts of extraordinary ways. And they're already making a significant difference to the work we do, and there's more to come in the days and weeks ahead. We're already thinking about AI in hopefully creative and responsible ways simultaneously. We've created an AI skunkworks that's looking at how we can deploy AI across the organization, across research, across teaching, from the ground up, because we think this is a time when we need to be listening to our experts, listening to our staff and students, and then trying to find what works and scale it quickly for the benefit of the organization, and something we want to share with our partners as well. Our cultural institutions are simply ridiculous. By that I mean amazing. I don't want to give Esme or Sue or Chris a heart attack here. They are amazing. We have, any other university would kill to have the Manchester Museum, okay? So they can't have it because we have it. But we've also got the Whitworth. We've also got Dodrell. And we've got the Rylands. 4 of the world's most extraordinary, not just the UK's, 4 of the world's most extraordinary cultural gems. And they are distinctly kind of Manchester institutions. They're embedded in the history of this place and the culture of this place. Over, millions of Mancunians and visitors course through those organizations, those institutions every year. So how do we harness the cultural institutions to connect with our ambitions in research and teaching and partnership? That work is already underway and is incredibly exciting. I mentioned we're building our digital campus, and Manchester Online is a new initiative that you'll hear more about in the weeks and months and years ahead that will be the sort of driving force for our digital campus. And as I said, that's not because we're stepping away from the importance of embodied on-campus learning. That will remain at the heart of what we do. But we need to harness the digital age we're living in for the benefit of our students and staff, and to open up the University of Manchester to new opportunities, to lifelong learning, to retraining, to communities who have not been able to access the extraordinary opportunities we can provide. And then we're thinking hard about our future in terms of philanthropy. How do we become a great philanthropic organization? You'll hear more about this next month when we launch our first ever, in our history, major philanthropic campaign. But philanthropy will be at the heart of everything we do in our future. And again, this is something we're both looking to the past to learn from, but thinking very differently for the future. This place began with a gift. It began as an answer to a question, but it also began with a gift. Those great names you hear on buildings throughout our campus, Owens, Whitworth, these were the great philanthropists, Rylands, the great philanthropists of their day. How do we use philanthropy to help transform our ambitions for the future? And then finally, the student experience. We're already beginning to think about how we can transform our student experience, how we can, as one of the large, well, with us and UCL, I guess one of the largest institutions in the country, how do we provide all the benefits that come from a large, complex institution like ours with a more personalized student experience? And we happen to have, I think, one of the best student unions in the country, and we're already working closely with them to help us think that through and deliver new ways of engaging with our students. So 5 leaps, 5 foundations, driving our work over the next 10 years to become one of the world's leading 21st century civic institutions. Our ambition should be nothing less. And moreover, we're already on our way. There's lots more to do, but we're on our way. So how are you going to deliver on this ambition? I mean, one thing is you need a strategy. You need to have a sense of direction. You need to know where you're going. At a workshop a few weeks ago, I had someone stand up and say, Duncan, just stop. Just stop all this strategy stuff. We need a break. Just stop. And if only the world would stop. But I hear where the colleague's coming from. So we need a strategy. We need to set our ambition at the right level. This is an institution that should aim for nothing less than to be among the best universities of its kind in the world. And we have a distinct story to tell as an institution born and bred in Manchester. But then we need to think about how we're going to deliver it. And this is a 10-year strategy. I did have a conversation with a colleague a few weeks ago who said, Duncan, you need a 50-year strategy. I said it was hard enough to get the board to agree to a 10-year strategy, let alone to a 50-year strategy. But I could see where he was coming from. So a 10-year strategy means we don't do everything at once, in part because we don't have all the answers yet, but we have a clear sense of direction, we have a clear framework. And we're going to be thinking very hard, we are thinking very hard about how we're going to deliver our strategy, drawing on what's worked well in the past, but also what hasn't worked well in the past in terms of delivering initiatives in our institution. And we'll develop a delivery handbook, for example, the how of our strategy over the coming days and weeks. And then, of course, we'll develop those implementation plans that need to accompany any strategy that begins with words and concepts, but then needs to actually shape the daily work and life of student staffs and our partners. So it's a decadal strategy. We're going to chunk it up into different kinds of work packages and work plans, and that work basically begins tomorrow. In fact, it's already started, but I guess officially it begins tomorrow. So as I said, 5 leaps, 5 foundations. That's our ambition. That's our strategy for the next 10 years. We're going to measure ourselves in a range of ways, but we're going to focus on what our students are telling us, what our partners are telling us, what other people are telling us about our research. We don't only have to listen to, often universities only listen to themselves, but we want to pay attention to what other people are saying to us. We're going to focus on how we can actually tell if our strategy is working, whether that's through the income we earn, the philanthropy we gain, or the contacts and people who we are working with. And all of that will form part of the sort of accountability structure of our strategy. Now, last year, I ended my talk, rather riskily, I thought, with reference to a great German philosopher named Jürgen Klopp. And Jürgen Klopp said something that has always stuck with me. He said that it's not what they say about you when you arrive, but what they say about you when you leave. So I thought I would end tonight with a more Manchester story. It was a bit risky ending with a Liverpool story last time, so I thought I better correct that and end with a more Liverpool story. More Manchester story. And the person I'm thinking about is Kwame Nkrumah. Now, Kwame Nkrumah is an extraordinary person. He led the Gold Coast colony out of the British Empire in 1957 to independence. He was the first prime minister of an independent Ghana, but also he has a connection with us. He helped to organize the 5th Pan-African Congress in 1945, on this day in 1945. And Kwame Nkrumah and his colleagues at that conference, which was held just down the road in All Saints Park, now a building part of Man Met. You can see the plaque on the wall if you're walking back that way tonight. Kwame and his colleagues, and if you read the list of people who attended, it's like the most staggering list of people who would go on and reshape not just African politics, but global politics, really, for the next 50 years from there. They were charting a new course for Africa. They were setting out a new ambition for a continent. And Kwame Nkrumah was someone who was thinking about the future in unbelievably challenging circumstances. In 1945, just as the Second World War was ending, here in Manchester. And he said this, when they left Manchester, we went from Manchester knowing definitely where we were going. They had set their ambition and they were stepping out to get on with the work of realizing it. So hopefully tonight we know where we're going, and tomorrow we step up and start the work. Thank you very much. So look, I said partnership is at the heart of our strategy, and I'm delighted now to invite Councillor Bev Craig, leader of the Manchester City Council, to join us and say a few words tonight. Bev, wonderful to have you here.
Thanks, Duncan. And I was pleased you ended in a Manchester story. I was getting a bit nervous that you sit in front of a Manchester crowd and start talking about Liverpool Football Club and Jürgen Klopp. So well recovered. Look, really great to be here, and really great to be showing our support for the 10-year strategy that the university is setting out. I think I've said it many times before, but really is worth restating that if I think about our city's history and I think about the success of our city in recent years, throughout history our relationships have been intertwined. When the university has been doing well, the city does well. When the city does well, the university benefits. So I think as we move into the next decade, it's even more important that we stay close and that we share that ambition about making our city a great place. And it's fantastic, actually, because when we get to go out across Manchester, but also we get to go across the world and tell the story of our city, the impact that Manchester has had on the globe, from being the heart of the Industrial Revolution through to the suffragettes and women's rights or the Pan-African Congress that was held here. The university's hands have been all over that throughout our history, and I think definitely as part of our shared story is part of the good things to tell. But I think one of the things that I really like about Manchester is that we don't just look back, we always challenge ourselves to think what in the future is going to improve in our city. And I say that as someone who, the people of Manchester often ask how on earth they've got stuck with me as leader of the council, and I would say to them, well, blame the University of Manchester. So it's all your fault, guys, that I'm here. But when I came to this city, having never been to Manchester before, I came as a student to the University of Manchester and immediately found a place that opened my eyes to a world of possibilities. A little kid from a council estate that had been on free school meals, where no one in their family had even done GCSEs, never mind gone to university, had no idea of a world that was possible out there, that probably arrived, like many, with that little working class chip on their shoulder that would take a little bit of time to shake off. But it was the environment of the university, it was the people that I met, it was the institution that I experienced, and it was the outward look of a university in a city that was so vibrant, so diverse and so welcoming, that meant that for the first time in my life as an 18, 19-year-old, I found a sense of belonging, a place to call home. And the reality is there are many, many people like me. There are so many people that have been drawn to our city, that have either stayed and made it home and decided to give back and do great things, to set up businesses, to help contribute to our economic growth, to be public servants, a whole range of people. But there's also ambassadors right across the globe that, without us knowing it, in their everyday business are sitting and they're championing Manchester. Very recently, when we were on an international trade visit, first to Singapore and to Japan, I was struck by how many graduates of the University of Manchester and UMIST, because many of you still remember UMIST, banging that drum for a city that they'd not visited in 20 to 30 years, but it was a city that gave them something. It was a city that made them feel part of something. And I'd never underestimate the impact that the reputation of the university holds across the world. But I think when Duncan told me that they were looking at a 10-year strategy in the university, we obviously had a little bit of choreography to do. So we launched our 10-year strategy earlier on in the year. So clearly 10 years are a fashion. But on a serious note, it made perfect sense to me to have a 10-year city plan, not just a city council plan, but the jobs that all of our partners would have to do in helping our city thrive over the next decades. And when I was reading through the emerging university 10-year strategy, there was so much synergy. Not just synergy in terms of our shared ambition, but in terms of the shared objectives that we set ourselves for impact. And often it's easy just to reflect on the role that universities play in education, and the role that the university does and can play over the next decade will no doubt grow. Having its impact in Manchester, a city that's not just known for our skyscrapers and economic growth rates that make the rest of the UK look a little bit shy and mediocre in comparison. But I'm not competitive. It's not my nature, but our GVA growth was higher than that of London since the pandemic, so I am just saying. But it's not just about that. It's about the impact that can be had across our schools and our colleges. It's about the help that you can give to a UK education system that at times fails, perhaps doesn't celebrate universities in the way it should, but hasn't set itself a holistic vision yet of what lifelong learning looks like. And I think some of the things that you're talking about in your strategy can really set that blueprint, because we should be able to move through institutions, be they colleges or be they universities, at different touch points in our lives, and we should be knitting together a system that is more flexible, a system that never pits FE against HE, a system that never says you must simply do one or the other. But over the course of your life, you could do both. And we need to find ways that make our education system more permeable. So being able to expand digital learning, being able to think about who can benefit from the university, I think is an incredibly powerful tool, not just to my residents in the City of Manchester or across the City region in Greater Manchester, but actually helping shake up what the UK's approach to skills and education looks like. Or if we think about the shared impact that we can have in the field of growing the economy. And look, you know, we talk a lot about economic growth, but the reality is when I'm speaking to people about that in Manchester, it's about creating new jobs, it's helping businesses thrive, it's bringing opportunities to your doorstep, good quality neighbourhoods and good quality homes. And the role that innovation has in supercharging our economy, particularly over the last 10 years, but in the next 15 to come, I think will be fundamental. So initiatives like Unit M, the opportunity to work more closely together around how we grow our innovation-based economy, capitalising not just on the great R&D spend that we see in the university, but how that can draw in external funding as well, I think is a great opportunity. But then I think the thing for me, and this is where I think a challenge of how we work together over the next decade to be set. When I think about the tens of thousands of students with the ideas that they create, the curiousness and inquisitive nature of their minds, and I think about the 13,000 academic staff, there can be more we can do in our city and city region to benefit from impact. We need to create a system where the ideas that are being created here are felt here, not just in industry, and not just when it comes to the economy, around thinking about start-ups and scale-ups, but actually about the ideas that academics are thinking through. How do we improve some of the big challenges we've had for generations in the city? How do we tackle the inequalities of health and wealth? How does our learning help us dismantle some of those structural barriers that hold people back? Be that how the economy is structured, or be that structural racism that's too ingrained. All of these big questions we all get to benefit from. And I think that's what excites me about an ambitious plan over the next decade that speaks to the plan that we have for the city. So look, I have nothing but praise and nothing but support, because I think, you know, in a world where it is easy for people to be pulled apart, there's something quite special in the city. There's something quite special about the civic pride and identity that we have. And I had the same conversation this morning with hundreds of businesses that came to see us to talk about how they could give back. It's precisely the same when I look around this room. People are proud, irrespective of where you were born, irrespective of your national allegiances or your own multifaceted identities. People are proud to be from this city, to be part of this city, to contribute to the city, and to do something for the city. The more we lean into that, the more we harness that, the more we actualise the ambition of the strapline that you've got of Manchester for the world. But it's ideas that start here, it's ideas that are felt here, and it's ideas that Manchester benefit from that can change the globe if we work together. So thank you for inviting me along this evening. I'm actually really fascinated to learn more about car parking, but I might save that. And if you think you have it tough on car parking, try being an elected politician when everyone wants to tell you about the cars. But on a serious note, look, in a time of short-termism, a 10-year plan is not an easy gig to settle. So to have a clear direction over a decade is an incredible feat. Now, as I'll always say, is your job to crack on and prove your worth and get it delivered. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Bev. I did not think the car park would be such a key feature this evening, so let's not keep that going. So we're going to take a step into the future and imagine what it will be like to be a student here in 2035. And, you know, what makes a University of Manchester student? Why is that different to the rest of the sector, to the rest of the Russell Group, to the rest of the post-92s? And I always like to tackle big questions like that through the framework of think, feel, and do. So what would it be like to be a student? How would they feel? What would they do? How would they engage with the university? So picture yourself arriving in Manchester for the first time. It's exciting, overwhelming, and full of possibility. But right from the beginning, you're supported, and you feel like you belong here. The systems, the people, the environment, everything is designed to help you settle in quickly, make connections, and feel part of something bigger. Your course isn't a one-size-fits-all. You've shaped it around what matters to you, drawing on flexible modules, projects linked to real-world challenges, and opportunities to work directly with partners tackling issues you care about. You're not just learning, you're applying, contributing, and creating impact before you've even graduated. It's quite the CV. Support is seamless. Whether it's academic advice, well-being, or financial help, you don't have to tell your story twice. One conversation unlocks everything you need, and through your time here, you've gained paid experience that builds your CV and links directly to what you want to do in your future career. By 2035, being a student at Manchester means knowing you're at a university that sees you, supports you, challenges you, and connects you to opportunities that matter. It's not just about gaining a degree. We know that students come for way more than just that. It's about shaping your future, with Manchester at your side every step of the way. There are some things we don't need to take 10 years to do, but students, as our main stakeholder, need to be at the centre of our thinking and our activities. The student experience is a strategic investment, and it must match the investment they make in us as a university. So I hope that's given you a flavour of what the student experience of the future will look like. I mean, for our 48,000 students, it will look different, it won't be homogenous, and they will do what they want to make the most of their time here. And that's over to them. But hopefully you've got the framework that will allow us to enable them to support their best interests while they're here. So I'll hand over to Wise to share what the future will look like for colleagues and leaders here.
Thanks, Lexi. Now let's shift perspectives. What does this future look like if you're a colleague here in 2035? It means being part of a community with a clear purpose, a sense that you're contributing something ambitious and meaningful. You work in teams that cut across departments and disciplines with clear goals, freedom to experiment, and leaders who back your ideas. Your voice counts, your learning matters, and your contribution is valued. The systems around you make your life easier. AI streamlines daily tasks, freeing you to focus on what humans do best, creativity and collaboration. Workspaces flex to how you actually work, and tools are designed for productivity and innovation, not bureaucracy. If you're an academic, you teach in a way you always wanted. Protected time for deep work with students, partner-enabled learning projects built into your modules, and recognition frameworks that give you space to innovate. Your research feeds your teaching, and your teaching feels relevant and exciting because it connects the world around the classroom. If you're a researcher, you're no longer siloed. You're part of a platform that brings together diverse expertise to tackle urgent global challenges: climate change, biodiversity, food systems. Teams form around questions, not boundaries, and you're supported with the funding, infrastructure, and partnership needed to move fast and make a difference. By 2035, being a colleague or a leader at Manchester means being trusted, supported, and empowered to succeed. It's about having the conditions to thrive so that we can all deliver on a shared mission together. That's the workplace Manchester is building, and it's one we can all be proud of. And with that, I'd like to welcome Duncan back to the stage to hear your reflections and your questions.
So we've got a few minutes if there are questions in the room, as there always are, at any event at the University of Manchester. So we'll just take 10 minutes. There's roving mics. You can just raise your hand or make yourself known to my colleagues, and a mic will find its way to you. So are there any questions in the room about anything you've heard? Yeah, right in the middle. And we'll take 2 or 3 before we wrap things up.
I just wanted to say that across what you've described this evening, it really sounds like the blinkers and the guide rails have kind of been taken off about what is an operating model for a university. So I'm very excited cited, but I wanted to ask, we speak about digital enabling a lot of what we do, and we also talk about inclusivity. Do you have any clear ideas about how that inclusivity will extend into our digital propositions?
So great question. So the first thing we have to do is probably have a logo that's digitally accessible. Don't get me started. So it's a really important question. And of course, technology on so many levels is revolutionary for increasing accessibility for people with a wide range of disabilities, both visible and invisible. And we need to design that into our approach from the very beginning. And one thing we have is an incredibly strong network of staff and students who are going to hold us to account for that and who we've been starting to draw on already. So yes, we need to make sure that our curricula, our digital platforms, our physical environment is able to meet the ambition we have for being an inclusive institution. As I said, and I really believe this in my bones, the best universities are inclusive universities because you just do better teaching, you do better research, you are a better partner if you get that right. So accessibility will be at the heart of, not only be at the heart of the digital sort of transformation because it's the right thing to do, but because I think it's the way in which we're going to succeed ultimately as an organization. So, you know, hold us to it. This is being live streamed, so, you know, you can play it back to me in 18 months. I'm sure you will. Any other questions or comments in the room? Yes, we have one right here. Yes.
Hi. Firstly, I'd like to thank you for taking your time for this event. It's amazing. But one thing I was hoping to ask about in particular is within the initiative of trying to basically give students more hands-on experiences so that they can connect with the community and set themselves up for their careers. I was hoping, you know, what plans you might have for connecting students with companies, and perhaps if there's potential to actually connect companies with student societies that might be trying to be involved in these different types of projects. Thank you.
So absolutely, and we won't I won't dive into the details, but that's the work that's underway now. The big concept we're exploring at the moment is something we're calling partner-enabled learning, and that is to bring our partners not just onto the campus or us to go to them when it comes to thinking about our research and the amazing things we do in the innovation space, but also in relation to what our students do. And so what partner-enabled learning means ultimately is giving our students a chance to put their learning into practice and giving our partners a chance to benefit, as Bev so eloquently put it, to benefit from the ideas and the sort of energy that is being generated by our extraordinary student body. So that doesn't just mean internships or placements. Those will still be important things. And of course, already our medical students, our health students, our education students, our law students do all kinds of placements and engagements in various ways. And we've got stunning examples that we can build on. But it's also thinking about how we scale other opportunities. So for example, imagine going out to our partners, both public and private sector, and saying, give us your problems, your challenges that you're working on, and we'll take those back into the university and create multidisciplinary teams of students to work on those problems, maybe for a whole semester, for which they will get credit, for which they will have a kind of structured program to work through. I mean, imagine, so the dream here is just imagine mobilizing 48,000 students on this campus for purposes that benefit this city and this region and the world beyond. I mean, just imagine if we could harness that in more powerful and creative ways than we do now. That, of course, generates benefits for students who are looking for an edge in a tough labor market, but it also, as Bev said, brings enormous value to the community. So yes, in short, the idea is we want to connect our partners with every aspect of the student experience that we can, and potentially including student societies. That's a great idea. I mean, I'm looking for Jen Hallam. She should be writing that down now or writing it on her phone as we speak, and I'm sure she is. So let's see what we can do. Okay, maybe one or two more questions. There's one right behind. I don't want to be in a center bias here. If is there a left-wing or a right-wing questioner that would like to? But there is someone right behind you, yeah.
Everyone, I'm an undergraduate student from the University of Manchester. I think I have two suggestions to build a greater Manchester. The first thing is we can open an optional class about learning how to use AI and new tools to solve realistic problems. A lot of students don't have the skill. That means they cannot get used to this big era. The second thing is we should build a better library. When I went to the Manchester Library, I thought it was great, but I think there are some other places to improve. We were to build a library into a casino. I think we should have a high concentration of oxygen that makes people excited, perfume smell in toilet, and I think we should need bright light and less clock to let the students who forgot the time passes. So
I mean, Chris is in the room. I mean, the analogy between a library and a casino, that's the first I've heard. That is an amazing example of Manchester's extraordinary student body. I mean, on the first question though about helping, so libraries and casinos, I'm just going to take that away. It's just too good. But on the first question, I had a wonderful meeting with the Machine Learning Student Society or the Comp Sci Student Society, and they came to see me, and they had a whole bunch of amazing ideas. But one of them said, in the spirit that you said, Duncan, we're very worried about the humanities students. We feel we need to help them navigate their way through the world of AI. And I said, actually, they're very worried about you. So, I think we need, our colleagues, Sarah and Fiona, the two great deans of FSC and humanities respectively, to think about how we bring those groups together. But you're right, it is a really big challenge and opportunity. Our students want to leave the university able to navigate a world being transformed by artificial intelligence. But we need to help them leave the university able to navigate a world transformed by artificial intelligence in the right way. Critically, thoughtfully, ethically. And that's one of the things we're going to have to really grapple with, because nobody else is. AI companies aren't. We have a real responsibility, a serious responsibility as an institution to think that through. So that's going to be a big part of our work over the next while. Okay, let's take one more question. Yes, right-wing bias has been solved.
At the university for 29 years and about to leave. And I have had a very unconventional trajectory through my career. And what speaks to me from the whole vision here is how are we going to ensure that we have the people working in and with the university to deliver on your strategy and vision. Because for me, if we continue to use the structures and systems that are 200 years old, we're going to completely miss what you're trying to achieve here. So Manchester could be the first to really have a category of people who can deliver across porous walls and, have those two careers. And I just want to know what your thoughts are on that.
No, I mean, so Jackie, as always, amazing insight. I mean, I joke with people that Manchester's 200 years old, but our systems are 250 years old. So that's what that vision around one university and that vision around digital transformation is speaking to. But you're right, we are going to need, as I said, to turn ourselves outward in everything we do. And that means not stepping away from the core values of a university when it comes to outstanding research and teaching and the commitment and the skill and knowledge that comes with that, but also thinking differently about what our workforce will be in 10 years. If we're going to transform ourselves digitally, we're going to need more people who can help us do that. We're going to need more people with commercial experience who are attracted to working in this environment. And that's already something I think we've got exciting potential to tap into. We're going to need to be more aware and attuned and embracing of diverse mindsets and neurodiversity, as well as physical and less visible diversity as well. So, like I said, we're living at a time when there's a lot of doubt being expressed about those values, and I think we have to double down on them. I think it's absolutely central to our success. So I do think in 10 years' time, our sort of workforce will look different than today, hopefully through choices we've made and the agency we've exercised, rather than just kind of reacted to. So I think it is a really big question and opportunity for us. Okay, let's probably bring things to a close. You can save your questions, pass your questions on in various ways, and we're going to have some time together after this event as well, and I'm very happy to talk to you all then. But before we do, to bring things to a close, I'm really delighted to invite and to have here tonight Anna Dahl from our Board of Governors, who is an amazing supporter, an important colleague, not just on the board, but in the city as well, as an important leader in our further education system. So without further ado, Anna, please join us. Thank you.
Thank you, Duncan. Good evening, everyone. Due to an unexpected family emergency, our chair of the board, Philippa Hurd, is unable to be with us this evening. I am privileged, however, on behalf of her and on behalf of the board, to share with you what she wanted to say this evening. So I am going to stick to what she asked me to stick to, because I believe she might be watching on a live stream. So I'm not going to deviate. However, as the board of this absolutely amazing university, our priorities and our challenges are and will continue to be in, and you guessed it, 5 areas. Firstly, stability. We want to be sure that as an institution, the University of Manchester is able to create the financial resources to invest in our future. As part of that and to that end, we have a detailed 5-year financial plan in place. Secondly, we wanted to see that equal weight was given to the 3 pillars: teaching and student experience, research, and social and economic impact. Thirdly, there comes a commitment to the infrastructure investment, much of it digital, that is necessary to support an effective and well-run institution. Fourthly, we will now be supporting as a board the development of a realistic plan for delivery. This is a 10-year strategy and not a 1-year blueprint. We are developing and supporting a leadership approach that allows a diverse community of individual talent and expertise to work and excel together as one university. And then finally, building on all of those foundations, we are looking for a guiding North Star of purpose. Why and how the University of Manchester will matter to its students, staff, the city, the region, and the world in 10 years' time. So with all that in mind, what we have heard tonight is inspiring. It's a vision of a university that knows who it is, what it stands for, and where it's going. A university that is asking itself how it can do more to better serve its communities. It's a strategy that is rooted in Manchester's character, bold, ambitious, and determined to make a difference. So thank you, Duncan. And thank you to each person who has leaned in to add their expertise and judgment to the strategy and development. Thank you to Bev for your inspiration, support and our critical city-region partnership. Please also join me in giving a special thanks to Lexi and Wise for bringing that future to life so vividly for us tonight. I'd like to invite you to celebrate this moment with us and to begin the conversation about what happens next. In a moment, I'm going to ask you to join us for the reception downstairs, where the university executive team will be ready to explore the strategy with you. You'll also find our Ideas Lab open this evening, where you can share your thoughts, your reflections and feedback. And we'd particularly like to know what you'd like to see us do differently as a result of the strategy. So in a moment, I will ask you to make your way downstairs and colleagues will direct you so that you find your way. Finally, I would like to say, on behalf of Philippa and on behalf of the board, we are so excited about our next 10 years. We've no illusions that it will be easy, but it is good and it is vital and important work. So thank you for being part of this evening, for supporting this evening, and we all look forward to working with you. Thank you.